After playing Fang for a while, I've gotta say, I think Fang is probably the best decision Supercell ever made. Sure, his design is nothing amazing, sure his mechanics are quite simple, but there's actually an incredible genius behind the design of this brawler. So join me as we take a look at why Fang's design is genius and how it shows where Brawl Stars is headed. First of all, let me introduce you to the biggest mistake a video game dev team can make that I call the new player favor fallacy. You'll know why this is important later on. Devs are often concerned that the new players will leave the game after joining because the opponents they face are too strong for them to handle or the game is too skill oriented. So the devs will often add easily accessible OP weapons, characters, etc. to a game so that the newer players can keep up with the existing player base. However, this is like giving the old players the finger because the older players spend a lot of time building their skill while newer players can just blaze through games with brainless overpowered advantages. The best example would be Grom, a brawler that's far too powerful for his own good and is tough to counter. Grom was given to nearly everyone, considering that we did have a Grompocalypse, and is incredibly powerful. And while he's great for newer players to get easy wins, it is an insult to the older players who hone their skill across many hours of gaming. So this focus towards making the game more fun for newer players often has older players, the majority, leaving the game. And that is something that has been proven again and again to be one of the most harmful things for a game's sustenance. Every brawler Supercell has released in the past few months have either been decent or overpowered. There was never a sweet spot, but Fang changes all of that. The two main complaints Fang received are that his star power is too broken or that his design is unoriginal. Let's be fair, the fresh kick star power is well and truly broken. However, I know a good way to balance it so that Fang can remain good but not overpowered, and I'll tell you how later on in the video. But first, let's talk about design. People complain that he's too much like Colette, Daryl, Ash or Edgar or even Buzz. That Supercell is lazy and is reusing old ideas and that Fang is boring. But let's be honest, every brawler either shoots, punches, throws or dashes. There's nothing revolutionary about any of them. What makes each one unique is their individual mechanics. And for Fang, the design and mechanics are just, like I said, genius. When it comes to how good a brawler is, we use two metrics, the skill floor and the skill cap. Skill floor is how easy it is to play a brawler, skill cap is how easy it is to become good at that brawler. Fang is easily a low skill floor, high skill cap brawler. This means he's easy to play but hard to master. The main reason he's easy to play is his super and the ability to bounce between enemies. But he's hard to master because, for one, his shoe attacks need a lot of skill to connect at long range, and for another, his main advantage lies in connecting multiple enemies in a single super, which rarely happens in high ladder because people don't easily stack. And if they do stack, you need to super in a way that doesn't bounce you into any hard counter brawlers like Shelly. And the fact that his attacks don't pierce enemies actually makes him less of an auto-aim masher like Edgar and Buzz. The flying shoe is also great at putting pressure since he only needs 4 hits from it to charge his super, thereby forcing the enemy to keep away from his attacks as much as possible. His super sets the low skill floor, his main attack sets the high skill cap. As for balancing, without fresh kicks, Fang is the most balanced brawler we've had so far. He counters squishies and gets countered by tank counters. He's very mobile but is weak to brawlers with cone-shaped attacks and terrible against tanks, which is ironic because he himself is pretty tanky. All of this combines to make a brawler that is both fun to play, not broken, but is very powerful if you master him. As for fresh kicks, Fang is balanced without it, but with it he becomes overpowered. So the thinking I followed was to nerf Fang's super by super charge rate, or the amount of hits required to charge a super by a super itself, and make it so that fresh kicks buffs him back to the balanced state. This means he will still be able to change supers, just not as often. All the details and calculations are linked in the description. The nerfs I'm suggesting will not make him useless. It'll just increase his skill cap by forcing the player to be more tactical with how they use their supers. Be sure to read the document and comment your thoughts below. But having said all that, Fang makes me hopeful for the future of Brawl Stars. If all brawlers from this point on are going to be as dynamic as Fang with their skill floors and caps, hitting that perfect sweet spot between being easy to play but tough to master and not broken like Grom, it definitely feels like Brawl Stars is getting better as a game. Hopefully the next Brawl Pass will have a similarly balanced brawler. But what do you think about this matter? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Z out.